Hey everyone, this is Chris Gaines, co-founder of The Den, and we're here at a new set, new location. We've got some new faces, and this is State of the Industry. So we're really excited for today's new podcast. We're focusing on the gaming industry today. Obviously, we'll cover some of the big headlines that happened over the past few weeks, but then we're going to join our new guest, Malcom Flack, the
Hey, how's it going?
co-founder of Bbuck.io, and he's going to tell us a little bit more about his project, as well as give his insights on the blockchain space in general, as well as how, from a gaming industry perspective, his take on some of the things that are happening. Also here with our, standard experts, we got Svet, Sedov, and Jason.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
I think why don't you quickly just introduce yourself a bit, tell us what you're doing in the space, and then we'll hop into the first topics.
Sure, yeah. So as Chris mentioned, my name is Malcom Flack. I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Bbuck, and we're essentially a token economy for gamers, so that for the first time ever, gamers can now be paid to play video games. And you don't have to be a professional or stream anything like that. It's as simple as like a 10-minute sign up. If you go sit on your couch and play games and get a little money while you do it. So
sounds really exciting.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of people are looking forward to learning more about Bbuck.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's hop straight into the kind of the first topic, and then we'll go from there. All right, this one is, it kind of goes back to some of the topics that we've brought up recently. A lot of the times we come back and forth with regulations in the blockchain space, right? So the libertarian think tank, Competitive Enterprise Institute, it's ranked number 59 out of 60 on the top think tanks in the United States. They recently published a 12-page long report named Cryptocurrency and the SEC's Limitless Power Grab. And within this article, it sharply criticizes the current SEC position on cryptocurrencies. So one of the interesting things that come out of this article, they're saying, among federal financial regulatory industries, none poses a greater threat to cryptocurrency and the associated blockchain technologies than the Securities and Exchange Commission. That is a really strong claim. Let me hear your guys' thoughts on this one.
Yeah, sure.
Finally.
Svet's rubbing his hands together.
Well, it's not a secret that we several times, me including, expressed that, how we would put it, like a disappointment with the current position of SEC, with outdated legislation, that we cannot really regulate the industry based on 1930s laws. Additionally, the level of attention our industry is getting from those guys is absolutely minimal, as we're not existing. Almost they care about us only when there is these huge hikes or dumps on the market, which is not absolutely the way to address for such a type of industry from part of regulators. And here we go, we have people who are saying that. It's not the people from around the corner, right? It's one of the established think tank. It's I don't know, maybe several thousands of think tanks acting in the United States. Those guys, they're in the top 60. So
yeah.
It makes them maybe not the most authoritarian voice in our industry, in the kind of economics and the usual topics they address, but that's important. And that's why I'm actually applauding their statement.
Yeah, so in my opinion, I think at the end of the day, taxi drivers fought Uber. I think the hotel industry fought Airbnb. The SEC has every right to, or incentive to, kind of attack blockchain technology and prevent these things from moving forward. And I think that especially speaks to the power of decentralization, is the fact that if you do have a decentralized network, you can't hold one particular individual responsible for what's happening. So I feel like that is kind of why the industry is pushing so much towards that. And if we ever do reach that, then hopefully the SEC won't have as much demand over this stuff.
It feels like it's all comes back to the paradigm shift, right?
Absolutely.
And 1930s laws that were created for an entirely different world, like it wasn't even globalized in the way that it is today. Now shifting over to trying to catch up to something that has progressed so fast in the past 30 years. Just you think like technology, the internet, the computers, completely like skewed like line graphs.
Yeah, just to remember what there's high taste is based on. It's apple juice futures. So now we're trying to align the industry, most advanced industry on earth, with apple juice. I have nothing against apple juice producer, but guys, we need to end that, right? So we need to kind of align regulations with the existing technologies. Otherwise, it's going to nowhere. Otherwise, United States of America in 5 years will be the last country where people involved in the blockchain industry, as you like us, wanted to live, right? So, because it's very difficult to make any types of business when we have IRS, all of the three letters agencies, always contradictory their own statements, issuing multiple regulations virtually every month without any legislative support from Congress.
What do you think, Jason?
Man, Bitcoin, the killer app of Bitcoin is decentralization, and it's been, that was it, everybody's like, hey, we need the killer app in blockchain. Well, we've had it.
It started with
and to start with, it was the first thing that came out with it. Like I said before, blockchain doesn't need the government to run. It's been running fine. It's going to continue to run fine. The SEC, are they doing a power grab like what this article says? Yeah, of course they are. They're trying to, be relevant but not have to do work like changing rules. So I mean, that'd be an awesome job,
adapting,
right?
Innovating.
Like we just take this old playbook and we just use it forever and never have to think of anything new to do. Cool, it's a sweet job.
Or just increase the length of the amendments or the little changes like exceptions
that we come up with.
Exceptions.
Yeah.
Oh.
Or maybe I will contradict what you're saying. We have a governance in blockchain, right? We have a governance mechanism.
Yeah, it's consensus.
Yes, but we have also validators in EOS, and we have the people who kind of running the big mining machines everywhere in the world. So there is some governance, but all the point of blockchain is introduced to produce the experiment in the model of governance. That's the point, and I think we have to do that exactly because of that. It's not that blockchain come and all the governors, governing the government around the world will disappear. It's just a new and absolutely cool and successful experiment. And I think that even if governments do not support it because, their outdated ideology or because they don't want to, they still have to support it to see what it's possible to do. If we cannot do that by ourselves, maybe governments will be applauding this failed experiment. But let us do that. Just simple like that, like, sandboxes or whatever.
Yeah. And it feels like, it is relatively obvious, it feels that way, that it's expected friction. Like, there's no way that you're going to try and create something that disrupts an industry or a way of doing things that has not really been messed with for so long and not expect for there to be backlash or, trying to pigeonhole something into a space that it doesn't fill. So we're just... At the end of the day, we have to deal with it because governments exist. They're not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
At least I don't think. Maybe they will. Maybe. But
No, I agree. I think just to add on to that, not to drag it out too long or anything, but I think it really is kind of a matter of the government accepting it more than even supporting it. I think what we're moving more towards is a peer-to-peer economy, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the buzz of the space.
Yeah.
And so that implies, though, that like, for instance, I have no quarrel with anyone in Mexico right now directly, so there's no reason I shouldn't be able to just transact with them off the get-go.
Yeah.
Versus our government, right, who wants to go up and build these walls and like, do things that are kind of beyond what my experience has been.
Your personal
Actually, I think it's an excellent point because of what happens now in the real economy, so-called real economy, which deal with our frontiers, political division existing now in the world, and these divisions become more and more pronounced, right? So we know that there are a lot of sanctions around, and there is now trade wars between two biggest economies in the world, China and United States, and that tells us what the future is going to be. Most probably, I'm not saying that I'm so pessimistic about that, but probability exists that the nearest future we're going to have more tariffs, more barriers. But blockchain, it's practically only one way out of that.
Yeah.
It's only one way only one way to let us trade with theirs.
It breaks
folks.
down or ignores all the barriers that governments typically put
Well,
up.
I don't think we will be able to ignore, but we will be able to overcome that. So there is a kind of maybe compromise possible here, because technology provides the possibility, and then the legislatures or regulators, their job is to make that possibilities be implemented in real life. In the scope of the existing, laws, ethical considerations, whatever, military, whatever they think is possible, but still allowing that. So my point is that, back to your point, right? So that's exactly why everybody's so excited about that. So from one point, we have this narrowing scope of the business outside of blockchain and expanding scope of the business inside. Where all the businesses must go? To the blockchain, logically. You see what I'm saying, right? We don't need blockchain if, say like immediate communication with all the countries. You can switch your account from one point to another, probably. Imagine that.
Yeah.
If we wouldn't do that, if it wouldn't be possible to do immediate transaction between all the countries, blockchain, we don't need it. Most part of it, right? But if we do such constraints, blockchain is way out.
Yeah, I think that's it's a really good. It's good for us to keep up to date on these things. Like to really, it's all we can do at this point is work around it.
Boy, let's do that.
Yeah. And it changes one day, and then you're on to the next day.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's shift on to the next topic. This one I think is actually really interesting. So most of us are pretty familiar with development. Stack Overflow, huge website. Everyone uses it. It's like Google for specifically.
Yeah.
Like
Pretty much
coding
every
problems.
day there.
Exactly. So they recently did a survey, and so basically they surveyed about 90,000 people, and there were some findings that they found specifically around blockchain from these primarily developers on the site. And so this, they published data, and it basically showed that about 80% of organizations that through this survey do not use blockchain technology currently. A couple of the other stats, 12.7% of the developers responded that organizations that are using blockchain are using it for non-currency, cryptocurrency purposes. So they're using the cryptographic proofs, stuff like that, smart contracts. And only 4% were using it for cryptocurrency-related solutions. So, let me know what you guys think about this one.
No, I was just thinking. I was like, man, I wonder what these numbers would have looked like in 2017.
That's a good one.
Everybody's like, people would say, I'm into the tech, and they'd be like, yeah, sure. No, you're not. You're into making money and seeing your stuff, and speculating, getting things, going. But being an old timer here that's been in this space for a long time, it's always been about the tech, and being able to do things like Svet was just talking about with the last question, being able to move money anywhere, having a code in my head that I can move all my money into another country, by just walking across the border and finding someone that can exchange it with me, without having to have permission of any kind.
Okay, let me ask you, do you mean that, say, since the time you first went to that area, there is a drastic shift in the perception of that technology?
What would you put the numbers at?
In
2017, what do you think they would be? Of the same type of survey?
It's hard to say because probably I don't know how many of these developers have come on after 2017. You know what I mean? It would just be interesting if Stack had done this same thing a few years ago. I mean, it's hindsight, but so many people looking at the tech, which is what should be driving all of this. Which is the whole point. The blockchain software, it's technology. To have it, on this article here saying, the people that are actually looking at the cryptocurrency side of it and the speculative and that side is now is really small. Like, sure, but I do feel like 90,000 people or how many they pulled there. That is a huge sample set of data. So I'm sure those numbers are good.
Yeah.
Some of the things we talk about sample and not knowing what the sample is, but that's a solid
I have nothing to say against that outside of, I think, Svet, you were mentioning that there's could be some response bias from India. One of which, one of the findings says that developers in India are the most likely to say that their organizations are using blockchain tech.
Well, but because of the numbers, right? India is a pretty much huge country, and there is no Chinese wall in India, so that so many people connected to and using their opportunity to express their opinions everywhere they can. Yeah. And one point which we have probably to remember that this poll actually reflects not the position of developers themselves, but the position of the organization that they're working for.
Right. Yeah.
And that's why there is one other number which I kind of read there is this huge disparity between how important most of the developers think blockchain is. It's a 60%, but only 20% actually using them. And it gives me like a almost twofold increase in the blockchain usage ahead of us, right? Mm-hmm. Because going from 20 to 60, it's threefold, I'm sorry. So just when I read it, I become like a wow. I didn't think that there are so many just people ready to jump into. Mm-hmm. Providing the organization support it. Because what I think is now stopping us, it's not, I'm sorry to say that, but we don't have enough funding. Most of the organization, we already reviewed how many, maybe at least couple of reports about how corporate world look at the blockchain.
Yeah.
So the average size of the project not exceeding like probably $2 to $5 million per year, which is nothing. In a big organization, huge organization, it's nothing. It's like a one department, it's like maybe 3-4 smart guys working for maybe like 3-4 years. Just it.
So, I don't know. I feel like the counter to that, though, is like $30 million ICOs and all these things to develop, their own applications, whether that be for enterprise or more like consumer facing. And additionally, I feel like this poll is really speaking about developers who are obviously doing enterprise applications. This might be in, insurance, real estate, or some of the bigger ones.
Not necessarily true, because we don't know. Basically, it's a cryptocurrency-related organization. Maybe there's half of those guys that are from ICOs, supported organizations.
Well, I'm assuming they're not even doing ICOs at all. Like, if you're looking at purely an efficiency standpoint, or like with cost reduction, right? And you have blockchain that you're implementing with real estate or insurance or something. Not only does that give the owners of that information more autonomy and control over their data, but it also reduces the cost of the middleman with those. So real estate, right, is like a broker and kind of the underwriting fees that have to take place when you're buying a piece of land, or insurance, right? Instead of having to call your doctor and all these things, like how cool would it be if you just had all of your stuff in one place that's secure and you could grab and access, and it's like universal. So I feel like, anyways, those are good enterprise things. I don't know about the funding, though, because the funding, I'm all for funding. I love funding. Don't get me wrong.
That's why I'm looking at you like, what?
I hate funding.
You come here, talk to those guys. They're investors saying, I don't need funding. So
No, please, no, definitely,
why are you here?
No, I feel like there has been other people in the space, though, right, that are doing the decentralized Ubers and kind of existing business models. Yeah, and they raise these huge rounds, and they have nothing really to show for it, right? They don't have a level of traction or anything that would. It's like Series D money on something that's on a white paper, right? And that ruined it for a lot of like actual businesses.
I have a lot of grounds to disagree with that, because I already, I'm reading these reports, actually, guys. You're only seeing them. I'm reading it. It's not confirmed by the numbers, because no more than 10-15% of all the, first of all, concerning all these fraud type of, rumors, there are no more than 10%. It's maximum number I've ever seen in any reports, which were really fraudulent.
ICO.
No more than 10%.
Absolutely.
The rest is just incompetent. But we have how many startups in my life I've seen competent? If you ask me, it is 1%. It's less than 1%. And that's the nature of the play, because most of the startups are run by young people like you. So how many years of experience do you have, my friend? I don't think that many investors, and by the way, revelation, I'm a shareholder for that young guy company. Just to let you guys know that I'm not
high capital.
I'm partial, but small shareholders that make me independent. And most of them, point being that ICOs properly organized, they can be of big help. Specifically,
that's a very key.
Yeah, right now. Yeah, of course,
key
we
phrase.
have some misgivings. I don't know. We need audit. We need due diligence. We need all this stuff. But already, like based on the last reports we discussed, probably last. We didn't. But one of the last reports which was issued about ICO says that now the size of the funding is drastically shrink per one ICO. It used to be for about 5 million, so now it's
as average.
Barely is 1 million. Then the probability to acquire funding for ICO in 2017 it used to be 50%, only 50% in 2017. So for the companies was able to acquire funding. Now it's only 30%. So it's going down, but maybe it's stabilizing. So my point is it's going to stabilize as soon as we get to the point when we're able to check actually the background of the founders and their future plans and somehow control issuance of funds. For example, we put something in custody and then start to issue money from the custody instead of just giving directly or charging money or sending money directly to accounts of the startup founder. Yeah. That's basically why.
Yeah, I think like everything is kind of following, as far as funding, is following the trend of like Bitcoin, of the price, right? Like part of, you can relate like the decrease in price to everyone, got a little too excited with the ICOs and everything. Regulators come in, like we were talking about earlier, start throwing hammers everywhere. People get a little scared. But we do know that there are actively people who are trying to do the next thing. They're trying to build the next protocol, who still have innovative ideas, who want to get to the next step. But now they have to go through some red tape. They have to weed through, the speculation and everything that caused kind of the crash that we had, right? So it's going to take, it's like a rebuilding period. I think that's
actually,
what it is.
I very much like you're saying that we're following Bitcoin step. It's not only in terms of prices, it's also in terms of the values. Because now, if you think it's many people express this opinion, Bitcoin more and more become like a store of value type of thing, rather than being like a medium of exchange. I'm not saying you cannot use because we have a lightning and everything, but what I'm saying is we have a structure now forming in our industry, right? So we have more or less these currency/companies occupying different niches. Some become more, say, big corporation orientated, like a more centralized type of thing. And other type of other coins start to kind of migrate more to gaming industry. You're going to talk about that. Some of them try to stay in the middle, and that's what we need. And as soon as we got that structure defined, then we have much more clearer channel for financing. Yeah. We shouldn't say no ICO. We should say more ICO, but better ICO.
Better, yeah. I think that's what this period of time that we're having is finding out what it takes to have that correctly done, raising a funding. Let's hop on to the next topic. We want to get into some of the gaming specific stuff.
Finally.
Well, no, I think it's good, and I'm an avid gamer. I know Jason is an avid gamer. Are you an avid gamer?
Oh, that's an excellent question. Actually, I used to game a lot, but now I'm more like a Go player. I play a lot of Go's, but it's not. It's basically a board game, right? You have this 19 by 19 board.
You can play on your phone and stuff too.
I don't like it because Go is
it's like the same. Yeah. And I'm sure you're an avid gamer.
Absolutely. Well. No doubt.
So let's hop into this article. So basically, Engine is creating a real-life Ready Player One, and it's powered by blockchain. Now, I hope we've all seen Ready Player One, right? For anyone who hasn't seen it,
I love that movie.
It was an amazing movie. Steven Spielberg, right?
Yep.
So good director. And basically, it showcased this entirely new fantasy world that is projected to be not that far in the future, where everyone has a virtual world, virtual reality, that they can live essentially second lives.
And most important, it's about coins. That's all about coins.
And the entire motivator is collecting coins and being able to spend it on stuff. Any gamification, but it's like of almost like the second life that's kind of more people will spend more time in their second life than the real life. So anyway,
it's a good movie about economically incentivizing people doing more work in offline.
Yeah,
and it's basically opening the world for that.
Yeah. So basically, what I wanted to dive into. So why is blockchain such an important part of this development? Like, why do they need blockchain technology in order to have a Ready Player One in real life?
One more thing which I add to this one before we start the conversation. This article is pretty much about the new ERC standard 1155, because that's kind of standards which now allow you to bundle your 1720Y. If you are like collectibles, if you have a lot of collectibles in different games, now you can bundle it into one contract, and then use this contract to move your collectibles as a group from one place to from one game to another. And just that's the way there's inventors engine see the future. So what do you?
Yeah, no, I was going to touch on that. I think another thing that ERC 1155 does is it allows you to take. I just forgot my point because I think you just said it.
Okay, so concentrate.
There was yeah.
So how can you use 1155 in your game? In your application, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so my application, absolutely not. So we built on top of Stellar, so we're not even related to Ethereum at all. What I was going to say, what is cool about that ERC 1155 is that the old ERC 20 standard, you can also port those assets into your new project or a game economy that you're doing if you're part of that engine coin thing.
Well, did you think about the possibility for other player from other game joining your game using 1155? Because it's like a two-way street, right? So if you're just saying, okay, but of course I understand what you're saying, because you are more like a Stellar, but not more like you're based on this one, right? But
so my whole thing is, I think collectibles are great. They're awesome. I think, NFT token, like there's a place for them in the industry. It's just not a place that we feel we want to compete in, because I don't want to say it's like a little too obvious, but I think that, there's just a lot of competition. I think the real opportunity going forward is going to where people's eyeballs already are and the games they're already playing. Like, I think the whole point of a new technology isn't to complicate your life with setting up like MetaMask and all the understanding all this new terminology. You're only going to do that if it's providing some functionality to your life that wasn't there before.
Oh, by the way,
so
here's the place time for your little promotion, because nobody really know what you're doing, because you didn't introduce your game. You just stopped talking about that.
What I was going to go into was with ours, the value I see is in the token economy itself. I see like an actual value system where we can tell gamers like, hey, for the first time, like what you do matters. You're going to get paid to play games. And now they can do that. But it's not something that we're going to be doing like a super game chain approach or other kind of gaming chain approaches where we want to incentivize developers to build video games on top of the chain. Because that's, again, a whole nother competition in itself. Building a good game, retention rate, there's a lot that goes into developing a good game.
It could be millions, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Easily.
Top, like AAA.
Absolutely. And like I said, frankly, I don't think people give two craps about using blockchain or not. They just want, they want to have fun or get played while they do it, or, so that's where I'm at.
So you mean that, when you're saying that people actually don't care whether you're using blockchain or not, that's actually create that, I would say like a security concern, I think. Because people have...
He's saying from a user perspective, which I think is
like, do you know what kind of engine your car runs and like all the nitty gritty details of your engine?
I do. But I'm unique.
No, some
because
people
I care about
people
that.
do. No,
but
it's
most
true.
99% of people do not, and it's the same thing with blockchain and gaming.
Yeah, the mechanics, they have a whole business around helping people navigate and fix what needs to be fixed, but at the end of the day, the thing needs to run and get you from point A to point B. Otherwise, why is anyone going to buy it in the first place?
Well, it's probably right, but it's creating as a conundrum, because people who join your game, they have to know their opportunities and their threats. You know what I'm saying, right? Because if you're saying that I'm going to be competing with a blockchain and non-blockchain gaming, you have to present some arguments for non-blockchain people joining you. You can say, okay, why can't I do the same thing but in non-blockchain space with your type of game? and you have to. Of course, it's getting paid, but also being able to exchange your collectibles, whatever. Maybe you will introduce next day, maybe not. But it's a possibility not to be confined inside of one game, but to explore other possibilities.
No,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When you say that the people don't care whether they are in blockchain or not joining your gaming, whether it's an absolutely kind of right type of approach, maybe yes, maybe not. I'm asking. I'm just challenging you.
Wait, so the question, sorry, what was the question again?
It's not a question. It's more like a comment on what you said, because you just mentioned that people should not care about what is inside of the engine when you drive the car. I'm absolutely not agree with this. I think that if you buy a car, you have to know what it is inside, at least in general level, right? What type of engine you're running, what type of gas tank you have, where you put your wheels.
But yeah, what I'm saying is like that's more of like a secondary thing. The first thing is like, you know, you have a car and it's like this is what the car does for you. And blockchain as a technology right now is like basically just this mess of an engine, and there's nothing around it. Like people don't know what to do with this thing. And so our purpose, our goal with what we're doing at Bbuck is to make it very simple for the user to not just onboard on a blockchain, but give them a true use case for it. And like I said, like as a lifelong gamer, like being paid to play games has been like a dream of mine for a long time. And it's something like, you know, I can't be a professional because there's like too much time you have to dedicate, and there's a whole bunch of other things involved. But anyways, that's one application of it. But those kinds of things are going to be what people actually care about more than, is this an ERC 1155 token, or is this what kind of standard is this on? You know, like developers care because they're the ones who actually build it.
They're building it. That's what they're focused on. So maybe you guys can build off of this analogy, because again, I'm a car guy as well. Look at the difference between a traditional combustion engine car and a hybrid, right? When you're trying to sell someone on, these cars, same power, same, very similar, but like one is a hybrid and one is a traditional. Like they are going to have to know, okay, this is a hybrid. That's the difference in the comparison, non-blockchain enabled game versus blockchain enabled game. They don't need to know like how the hybrid powertrain works. Exactly. They don't need to know anything about that. All they need to know is, A, it's greener as long as the electricity that I'm getting is green. B, if it's a plug-in hybrid, I can charge it easily. And so it's like these little changes to their experience that they have to be onboarded onto, but there's not as long as they feel the benefits, like I get 80 miles to the gallon as opposed to 20. As long as they feel that, that's what they care the most about. And then you're right. Then I feel like, I have to plug in every night, or I have a small range extender. I can still fill up if I need to. Like these are small things that are little adjustments that they would make, as long as they're feeling like either way I only have to plug in or fill the range extender every week instead of every 3 days.
Absolutely. And even to add to that, just a little bit too. Like even when you're selling someone on like a hybrid versus a combustion engine, the benefit, like when they think hybrid, they're like, I get better bang for my buck on gas. Right, it's like that's the value immediately for them that they would see, and then they make a decision on that. I
think you guys too utilitarian, because there is a classical approach in marketing which says that your customers must believe and love your product, and it's not utilitarian only. It's about the ideologies. So many brands,
of course,
spend so much money just to get in the right type of
Apple. You don't need to do. But even with Apple, they get their ethos across.
That's good.
Like crazy.
That's a good example. And my point is that as soon as you make clear for the customers that you're part of that blockchain industry, not only because of the utilitarian concerns or the monetary consideration, but because you truly believe in that, then there are a lot of people who are going to be joining your game because they're also believers. That's paradoxical, but that's how marketing works. That's many people spend a lot of money on that tablet, specifically outside of the United States of America, because say in India, the price of this is going to be thrice. In some other countries, in maybe 4 or 5 times, people going to be actually paying $1,500 for this one, just to be able to declare they're a member of the club. Yeah. That's my point. You see what I'm saying? And if you just kind of disregard that, okay, guys, there is only price, you kind of missing an opportunity to work, to engage as many customers as you potentially.
So let me see, Jason, do you have an input on this one?
Yes.
Not. I've got more anecdotal stuff, in history.
Yeah,
history. I mean,
that's great. That's what we need. Yeah.
That's what I'm here for, right?
Yeah.
So, blockchain and gaming has been, gaming and blockchain, starting with Bitcoin, has been, they've been together for a long time. Satoshi Dice came out, and it was the number one thing played on Bitcoin. Eric Voorhees released that. But even starting in like 2010, but we're talking early. The game Second Life
That's
had
right.
picked up their marketplace, right?
Yeah.
I didn't get doxxed because I was trading all my Bitcoins through Second Life and exiting through PayPal.
Yeah.
And so that's how I avoided that. I was like, well, what's going to be here longer? This Dox site in Japan or the Second Life game, And I was like, oh, here's an exit. I trade my Bitcoins for some Second Life credits, and then I can cash them out to PayPal, So it's been a long history of blockchain and gaming. CryptoKitties. We talked about earlier. CryptoKitties was everybody thinks it's like the first big thing that's happened. It's the first thing that happened on Ethereum, but it's not the first gaming thing of blockchain space. It's been around for 2010.
Since 2010, yeah.
Right. So something people forget about. But so I think it's great that Malcolm's doing what he's doing. It's newer than that. It's not just Satoshi Dice. It's something much more interesting. And
yeah, well,
that?
So I mean, I feel like at this point we should just kind of segue into like really diving deep into what you're actually doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like what we're kind of touching on is, and I think blockchain and gaming as a combined baby has the ability to touch the user adoption problem of blockchain technology in a way that no other industry really has. I mean, that's just my initial thoughts.
Well,
pornography, but
guys,
there's always that.
No, that's not true. Finance, don't forget that. We have
finance, but there's
finance
so much
and
red
gaming
tape
is
again.
kind of finance is a gaming, right?
the blockchain can enable gaming to be more financially inclusive or enabled.
Well, that's actually a very interesting question, just maybe philosophically, why gaming or gamers become one of the first users of
they're usually very technically advanced. They want the new thing that's come out.
Yeah.
They're willing to take those risks and be like, oh, PlayStation 5. They had some announcements earlier this week. I'm sure most of the PlayStation people, they're interested in that, have read that article. They're looking at the specs, looking at, hey, I can go to solid state drives, or whatever. So
gamers are typically more knowledgeable on the technology side
Right.
in general as a huge industry.
in keeping up with growing things.
And maybe it's also connected with some notion of moving the value, because gaming, it's gaming for something, right? So you can win like a magical sword, or you can win the points, or you can win the currency. And as soon as you win something, you have to store it. And you have to store it in some accounts. And that's where that perfect combination of finance and gaming came into play. That's how I see it. Because gaming is an industry which is on the out front of that human interaction with value. That's how I think. Take poker, right? Same thing. Take poker, any type of game, right? Yeah. It's always about moving from one player to another, whether it's just like a points or it's just money. And that's why I think that can be perfect combination between gaming and blockchain and finance come into play. That's what I think.
Yeah, no, I think I have 2 points I'd like to make on that. So the first one is the WAX released a survey that stated 55% of millennial gamers already own cryptocurrency.
Yep.
55%.
Yeah, makes perfect sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's crazy. So clearly, there's massive market overlap between gamers and just crypto adoption in general.
Wait a second.
And so
you said like a 55%
of
all the gaming
millennial gamers,
because there are more than 2.1 billion gamers.
Yes.
And how many millennials take like a 18% of all the
Of the demographic.
Of the demographic. So it's about like 400.
But they're also the future.
Yes.
400 million.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, millennials are normally
huge.
quick
It's
to
just
jobs.
That's bigger than the US.
No, 400 million is so much bigger than any numbers we ever heard about, right? Because last number we discussed, so basically one of the number we always try to kind of speculate around about is the number of the crypto users. in our podcasts. And in latest number, which commented our attention, was 100 million, right? 120 million.
Counteract.
And if
earlier
that number is true, it gives us like a 3 times more people. Oh no,
Then you just gave us a
3.5.
revelation.
That's what I'm saying. It's
But also the
Yeah,
way.
yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I guess that's what the wax survey said, and I think their sample size was like 5,000
You
people.
will
or so.
show me this story
Yeah,
after,
no,
after the
absolutely.
podcast. And, yeah,
Absolutely.
Because I still
Yeah.
don't
What's your
believe it.
source?
No, again, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a wax survey. But that's
okay.
the Worldwide
I look
Assets
at it, I look at
Exchange.
it.
So, anyways, that's what I was familiar with, and it sounded right, and it looked right. So that being said, I think the other thing games provide people is there's this thing called the Octavius Framework, right? And it's basically speaking to these 8 different core drivers of what makes people want to play a game. And literally the first one is this epic meaning and calling, right? Because when you're playing a game, you're contributing to a world much bigger than yourself, where like your actions actually matter, and you can see tangible results from that action, and like people respect you for it, etc. And then a couple other ones, for instance, were like social influence, to where, if you get really far in a game or something, you can show that to your friends somehow. And those are like the social Farmville kind of games where there's not really this epic meaning because you're a farmer, right? But like,
But you have a connection because multiple people are interacting with it.
Exactly. And so at Bbuck, what we do is we're developing a platform specifically around that Octavius framework and making sure that people understand a Bbuck, although cash is a huge benefit of it, and that's one of the core drivers, like the end game for people. It's also more than that, right? Like you're really participating in a value system that supersedes borders, where you're playing with a gamer in Korea and China and wherever else. And you guys can like interact and bond over this stuff, the games you're already playing. And so basically on the platform, I know I haven't talked about it much at all, but
Now's your chance.
oh yeah, perfect.
Let us know everything about Bbuck so us and the listeners are familiar.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bbuck is a platform where it takes about 10 minutes to sign up tops. Right now we're synced with a game called Fortnite. It's a massive game.
How many hundred millions of users do they have?
200 million registered users. It's 50 million daily active users.
Yeah.
It's massive. It's absolutely massive. And then Apex came out, and even then they're kind of falling off now a little bit more.
Apex is going.
Yeah. So the point is we do battle royale games specifically because it's 100 random people all in one location. They can't collude or fix a match. Like the winner's actually fair. When a person wins a game of Fortnite, we'll award them a currency called a Bbuck that has cash value, right? So we'll actually purchase that from you initially, and then hopefully we can build a world where someone else in some other country will purchase that because the utility we can give to this coin. And that part of that utility, for instance, is in the form of wagering. So we think when, esports is one of those things that's complicated to aggregate a bunch of people into one room for, right?
Yeah.
Like the Olympics, at least there's kind of standards, right? Where there's running and swimming and jumping, and these things don't really change much. So you can get people together. But both esports, the game mechanics, the meta changes all the time.
Every day.
Literally every day. New games come out, people change. So our solution is we feel like to get all these people together, it has to be a digital one. It's not going to be some stadium. So I guess that's kind of what we see Bbuck as. We see it as like this is kind of a way for the average gamer to participate in a world where, like I said, everything they do actually matters now, and they can wager the tokens they earn playing games for free, right? Like whatever games they're playing, and then use them for stuff. And then on the flip side of that, like cash inflow, like an actual viable business model, we make money through 2 different ways. One is transaction fees off of the wagers that do happen with gamers in games of skill specifically.
Yeah.
The second is we want to decentralize the quality assurance industry, specifically for video game testing. So game developers who want to test their game before it goes to market,
Ooh, that's good. That's
they're
good.
they'll want to have access to people to do it with, and there's also a big overlap between programmers and gamers. So this could be a 2-in-1 solution for them. Instead of spending $50 to $60K for a video game tester in-house to test their product,
Crowd tested.
they crowd test it. They say, here's Bbucks and here's a bunch of micro contracts that people can do, earn more Bbuck, and so now your Saturday that you're spending playing games can actually be productive. So that's what we see.
I got a point. So I do game test. That's one of the things that I've been doing for years. You guys know that. And it's interesting. Over the years, it used to be you'd go in and play, and they'd give you a stack of games from whatever publisher it is.
Not bad.
But lately, they've been throwing in like, here's a stack of games and a $50 gift card. And you never get anything that had a cash equivalency when doing play testing. So I think that's an awesome.
Here my question, because I'm pretty much outside of the industry, except that I'm kind of trying to help and invest in companies. But explain me how it works, this testing in the usual context.
So usually, so we got a big one here. I can speak a little bit. I do get NDA on what I test with them, but Redwood City, it's close to here. EA is right there. And so once a week, they'll send out a list of, emails if you're on their list of, hey, we've got openings to play test and play this game at EA, right? So it's usually a 4 to 6 hour block. Sometimes they'll do like weekend things where you can test at your house or whatever. But you roll in, you let them know what games you want, what you're interested in. They aggregate from that list, and you go in and play games for whatever while you're being taped or whatever.
But it's not paid, right?
It's not paid. They give you like games, but lately they've been throwing out like $50 gift cards and things like that.
So basically, your incentives mostly like moral and having the satisfaction of being the first guy to play the game, right?
And games cost like $60, and when you walk out with
how many
5 of them, or whatever,
you could turn those in the package, right? They're not used, so you can turn around and sell those.
Oh, you mean that they give it for free, right?
For free, in exchange for coming in for my time.
So there's
but now they're adding gift cards on top of it.
On top of that, so you basically become the first user and the first owner of the game. It's not simply like
it's not that game. They'll give me something from the back catalog of their games.
I see. Oh, so now what you're saying, you're adding on top of that industry that possibility for the guys like to be paid, right?
Yeah, you don't have to be like location based to go into a studio or anything. It's like you basically release your build, and then people all over the world can play that. And in addition to that, it's also marketing for your game, and it's also being able to add features like dynamically as you're making it. Right, so similar like how Fortnite will release a new update every single month, where it's like cool new features, and they listen very, very closely to the community. This is how you build that relationship with the community. Would be through Bbuck for these game developers.
It would have to be a later build. Early builds. Companies are not going to let anybody take a picture. Anything. When you walk in, they take. You walk through a metal detector.
Alpha testing.
You hand your cameras off. Nothing is getting photographed at any of those early tests. But later on in the testing cycle, yes, I can see how this could work.
Here's a challenge for you, right? So just yesterday, I was a participant of the Team Director University Hackathon in Gaming. I was literally sitting there and coding for this one. So, and there were for about 26 different ideas, at least maybe 3 of them. They're going the same direction you do. So basically, they are trying to compensate people for different types of gaming participation in gaming. My question is, providing that there are going to be growing number of companies who are doing something or similar what you're doing, do you have a plan for withstanding this competition? How maybe you don't have a clear plan, but what is your expectations? How you expect your company to change with time? That's my question.
No, that's a good question. So I feel like our plan right now is to focus purely on the token economy. We're not building games. We're not developing some crazy blockchain protocol where we need millions of dollars to run. We're focusing on one thing, and we're going to do it really well. And most other companies, when you look at them, they try and be this massive platform, is what they call themselves. And they try all these different things, and there's no focus there. And so what I think is going to differentiate us is because we're going to execute so well on providing this standard of what it means to win a video game through Battle Royale games specifically, there's actually going to be a point of pride that our users feel when they have a Bbuck, right? It's the difference between like Dre Beats or just random earphones off the
exactly. So you're creating brand. So you're trying to establish the first and create the brand, which then people are going to be having this kind of connection, which you won't be going to be able to break in terms of using other currencies. So that's your point, right?
Somewhat, yeah. I think brand, but also like network effects is a very real thing, especially within the blockchain space, because that's literally like tokens work off of Metcalfe's law, right? So it's like the more you have, the more that telecommunications network grows in value.
Okay.
So those are the biggest things, and I think everyone else right now, when you look at it, the games they're doing are just kind of random mobile games. It's like, here's some game nobody knows about and you're gonna get paid for it. It's like I don't want to do that. That's not fun. I want to go play Fortnite. I want to go play like Halo. I want to go play Call of Duty. I want to play games I'm already playing and make money from those, but I don't want to have to risk anything for it, right? It's like those portion of people, that whole tail end of the gaming industry is what we're after, and I feel like a lot of people don't understand that as well as we do.
Yeah.
So, I have two questions. I do want to get into some of the other gaming applications you're talking about, like the competitors. So, like, I do want to talk about some of the other applications that people are trying to use blockchain for in the industry. But firstly, I wanted to ask you, have you interacted with some of the publishers of the larger companies or the platforms already, like Steam, or what's the platform? Epic. Epic has
Games,
their own platform for all their games, right? I feel like Steam, especially, is like someone who hosts all the games. They take a large cut of the developers'
Publishing fees.
Yeah, publishing fees. They take 30%, something like that.
Yeah, it's massive.
So how do you perceive, as the company grows, as Bbuck, network effect and whatnot, how do you see them taking it? How do you see them interacting with it? Because, and just off the top, I could see them thinking like, oh, I want to use this too, but they could maybe want to create their own version. So yeah, let me know what you think about that.
Yeah. So I feel like at the end of the day, when Epic Games or Steam are taking these cuts, it's essentially for distribution, right? Like they're giving the game to a much larger audience than they could attain themselves.
Yeah.
So if we can do something similar with Bbuck and kind of have this marketplace for game developers to post their things, and especially if they can up those in price, like with Bbuck, that's all we care about really, is the token being queues for stuff. Like utility driving features always for the token. Then I think we could probably reduce those publishing fees, right? And it's a matter of just spending the token on stuff. So that's how I would see it. I think other game companies, specifically in the blockchain space, are better positioned for that particular market.
Yeah.
I know one in particular called Umerium that does that pretty well, and they've already partnered with some big game titles.
Okay.
So it's something that would be cool for us to do later on, but I definitely don't think it's going to be our main focus from these first couple years, or first year at least.
Okay,
So.
sure. Then let's see what else we wanted to dive into. So what are some of the biggest challenges that you've kind of run into trying to get this idea off the ground?
Oh God, a lot. Yeah. When I first met Svet, man. Yeah, my car.
It was a journey.
Yeah.
It was like absolutely. You don't want to talk about your car.
Yeah. Yeah. No, a lot of bad stuff happened. It was. One example was, so I did have like a Ledger Nano S. I was in San Francisco. I had my laptop. I had like business cards that I got from Switzerland. Like it was a good backpack. My passport was in there. Someone broke into my car, robbed all the stuff. Everything went down. I was like broke because I lost all my crypto. I had to go get a job for a little bit, and work it off.
And it was the next day. These guys were meeting in this beautiful place, Palo. It was in that house, right?
House,
we were meeting there, and this guy was like absolutely not his own. And I was thinking, what's going on? Because I was talking to him, trying to teach some wisdom to him. He was like absolutely not listening. And then he relates me. Sorry, was like, you must be joking. Holding all assets in one computer, who was kind of snatched from his window.
Yeah.
And he is actually getting an extremely difficult situation, but he's managed absolutely, amazing, because after 2 months, you kind of re-merge and become different level, and there are more people R&D, new developers. You also got a lot of problem with your first development team.
Oh yeah,
you remember
the guy freaked out. He left.
Yes,
he took down our whole website in a day.
So the guy who took your laptop?
No, sorry.
Okay.
This was, so I had
this is a different thing.
Yeah, I had a guy I was working with, and he was kind of like interim CTO kind of guy, seeing how things work out. And he was very bipolar. And so we had a thing where, we had the website up, everything was looking kind of cool. And then he talked kind of badly to this other developer we were working with. He was overseas. And I was like, hey man, maybe you shouldn't be so harsh on this guy. It's don't ever tell me how to talk. Leaves our Slack channel, takes down the entire Bbuck website offline. So I wake up the next morning, I was like, oh my God, it's gone. I tried calling him, he wouldn't answer the phone. I literally had to go drive to his house and like go in and calmly say, look, man, we basically got married when we did this, and we had a kid, and that kid is Bbuck. And right now, you're abusing our kid. Yeah, I was like, yeah, just let this kid live, man. Like, just let it do its thing. But like, we could have disagreements and all that stuff, and so it was crazy.
And I think about that from my point of view. Like, I mean, I'm shareholder of the company. This guy, virtually become the worst company in my portfolio. Like, going like boom, and I was like, man, do we have something else which can go wrong with this one? Maybe I'm losing your court whatsoever.
Man.
But actually, he drive through that like absolutely unabashed. He was like, okay, just a problem, we address it, whatever it takes. And it was like one of the things which makes me stick with this company, because I truly believe I'm like a long-term investor, so I mostly believe in people. So technology is secondary, although I'm a coder, but I know that if you have a will, you have a way. It's very simple, right? And this guy got a will. That's what my opinion. Basically, well, I'm advertising this straight for shilling like hell.
We're gonna have to put a sponsored post on the video.
Well, I'm an open guy.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, no, sign up. It's super simple. Go to bbuck.io and click the sign up button, and then you put in your email, your gamer tag, and 2 different passwords. And then it's done. And then after that, you also have to authenticate your Fortnite account, because the only way you'll be able to join is if you do play Fortnite right now. Once you do that, then you'll get shot to the dashboard. Then just put your phone in your pocket and go play video games and start earning Bbuck, assuming you win.
That sounds like a pretty friendly user experience.
Super, super friendly, yeah.
That we've been needing in the space.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, does anyone else have any last questions before we send our guest off?
No show for me. Sorry, guys. Can't hold myself.
Cool. Well, I think that's it for today. I mean, I really appreciate you coming down.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. Yeah, it was awesome.
This was really fun. I'm like a passionate gamer, like Jason is.
We've got this wonderful table. We're
I didn't mention this, did I? This is awesome. We're going to be selling Bitcoin billiard tables if anyone's interested.
No, you won't be, because that's actually the present from another of my. Don't forget that.
We will.
That is a present to me personally, guys. So keep it here.
If there's enough interest, Matt will personally give his Bitcoin billiard
one of one.
Yeah, exactly. Message us on online. Let us know. But yeah, I think that's it. So thank you very much for checking out this episode of State of the Industry. Again, I'm Chris Gaines. Any announcements? At the Den, we've got a bunch of stuff happening, like always.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry. Let me do it. We've got my partner back here throwing me off. So yeah, we're going to be running our Blockchain for Developers class in 2 locations coming up very soon. We have our most recent cohort. It's been going amazing. If anyone is interested in learning how it's been going, we're more than happy to talk to you and tell you about our current students. And we're having another one in Hacker Dojo starting in July, as well as in Starfish. So we partnered with Starfish Network up in San Francisco. We're going to be running classes over there as well, both the Blockchain for Developers as well as Hyperledger, and our Data Structures and Algorithms class. So if you're looking to get into development in this space, we are the place to do it. Hit us up, theden.io, and we'll go from there. Any other final words?
Well, thank you for listening to our podcast and joining our subscribe to the channel, because here we try to be objective as much as we can and talk about the state of the industry, about the companies, share our honest opinion about what's happening. You can find me in pretty much Google. You just Google Svet Sedov. You can join my Telegram channel, Ask Svet About Crypto, or you can send me your messages through any types of media. I mean, social media like a Facebook, LinkedIn, Quora, you name it. Telegram, yeah.
Yeah, and I'd say my final words, definitely join the Ask Svet About Crypto group. It's like very good commentary. He analyzes all the white papers. It's like fantastic breakdowns. I would
Thank
say
you, Parker.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I would say for in terms of Bbuck, if you don't play Fortnite and you still want to participate somehow, you can always reach me at Malcom@bbuck.io, or if you're more on the investor side, because like I said, I love fundraising, go visit pi.capital. We're one of the top performing portfolio companies on there so far, and you can buy equity for as low as $50 in there. So definitely worthwhile.
Then you know me, Jason. Try to stay off social. You can find me on LinkedIn. Don't look for him. Yeah, don't find me. I'll try to find you maybe. But I should have an announcement here coming up, and maybe we'll give it a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Got something fun working.
Stay tuned.
Cool.
Stay tuned. For
Oh, we have a drama here. Right? So watch the next podcast to know what's going on in his life.
All right. Well, thanks again for
Thank you.
watching, everyone. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Follow our podcast everywhere, and we'll catch you next time.
Yeah. Bye bye.